Hello and good morning and welcome to the latest MEED webinar. This month we're looking at AI in construction, specifically how AI can be used within different software, different platforms to help improve the construction, the planning, the design, delivery and post-asset operations of projects. Now there's been a lot of talk in recent, perhaps over the last 18 months since the release initially of ChatGPT, but then other AIs. And for the layman, like many of us, it's been our first interaction and usage of AI. And many of us have incorporated AI into a lot of our working lives. It's now, for example, Llama on WhatsApp. We have Gemini in Google, and of course we have ChatGPT. So many of us are now familiar with it. But its usage doesn't extend just to the personal, but it also extends into business, and in terms of projects as well. There are many efficiencies, savings and benefits that can be taken from AI, and it's that we'll be looking at today. So my name is Edward James. I'm the head of content and research, and as ever I'll be giving a 20-30 minute presentation in this webinar, and then if I can I'll be taking some of your questions afterwards. Now, also, as ever, this presentation is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube in a few days. And if you have registered for this webinar with your email address, then you should also receive a copy of this presentation over the course of the next hour or so. So, without further ado, let's start with the webinar. Okay, just before we move on to some of the slides, just to highlight what MEED is. I'm sure many of you are very familiar with MEED, but for those of you who are not, MEED is a number of different services and platforms. We have, of course, MEED.com, which is our news, features and analysis service. We have MEED Projects, which is our database of all known projects in the MENA and Africa regions, tracking them from planning all the way to completion stage. We have, of course, our premium intelligence reports, of which AI in construction is our latest. We have events. For example, last couple of weeks ago, we had our very successful Saudi Giga Projects 2025 Summit, which was a really excellent event in Riyadh. And we also have our marketing, content marketing, commercial marketing solutions business as well. So that's MEED in a nutshell. And this webinar ties in with our latest premium intelligence report, which is how AI is transforming the construction industry. To learn more about this report, you can scan the QR code here, or you can also check out the webpage for it. And as you'll see on the top left corner, for those of you attending today, there is a discount code which you can use and apply when purchasing the report for a discount. And finally, just also a reminder that our MEED Projects Awards 2025 are coming up later this year. We're now starting to take nominations in. If you have a project which was being completed in the last 12 to 18 months and you think it is deserving of special recognition for one reason or the other, it could be for its sustainability, it could be for its technological innovation, it could be for its iconic design, it could be for the aspects of its delivery and efficiency, then please consider nominating it for our very well-known and prestigious MEED Projects Awards. The deadline for submitting your nominations is on the 25th of June, so just under a month's time. And if you do have a project, like I said, recently completed, and you have been involved in it in some way, either as a client, as a developer, a consultant, a subcontractor, or a main contractor, then please check this out, and you feel free to submit your nomination in one of these categories that you can see here. To get more details about our awards, which have been ongoing now for, I think, 15 years or so, you can scan the QR code on the bottom right-hand corner for more details. But very prestigious. We've had some amazing winners over the last decade or so, and really held in very high regard. There will be a gala night later this year for the actual ceremony for the winners regionally. Okay, now before I look at the particular topic of AI in construction, I thought I would give a quick update of the projects market in general as we are so far this year. And we'll just start by looking at the last decade or so. And as we all know, if you've been attending these webinars, or if you've been reading MEED, you'll know that the last couple of years have been fantastic years. We hit new record heights of $253 billion in 2023 for value of contracts awarded in the GCC. And this was smashed last year at an even higher number of $288 billion in 2024. So we've really never had it so good. We are in a record boom period right now for projects activity in the region. Now, of course, a lot of that has been driven by the UAE and Saudi Arabia. However, and this is a very big however, we are now late May, and it's now time to start looking at the performance for 2025 to see how we are doing compared with previous couple of years. And it doesn't look quite so sunny when looking at performance over the last few months. You can see on this graph that in 2025 year to date, i.e. till end of May, first 5 months, we are on about $62.7 billion of contracts awarded. Now, clearly there's still 7 months of the year to go, but you can see that we are still quite some way off on a pro rata basis hitting last year's numbers. In fact, I think it's 99% sure that we will not be close to those numbers. You know, assuming that we've got 7 months more to go on a pro rata basis, then we're probably looking at anywhere between 120 and 150, 160 billion dollars of contracts to be awarded this year. That's well down on 2023 and 2024 numbers. And a lot of that really has got to do with a declining performance of the Saudi Arabia projects market, which is a topic for something to be explored in more depth, perhaps in our next webinar next month when we're looking at the Saudi Giga projects. Here you can see that illustrated more clearly. Saudi Arabia hit $151 billion of awards last year, easily a record for any single country in the GCC. Absolutely incredible performance. But this year, year to date, we are down to just $20.5 billion. So well down on last year's numbers. And it's clear that there's no way that this market can match the last 2 years. And in fact, may struggle even to reach the 2022 and 2023 numbers. Likewise, in the UAE, UAE has actually performed better than Saudi this year to date. We're at $31 billion as of end of May, compared with about $96 billion last year. It itself was a record for the UAE. So it also appears that the UAE market is also going to perform at lower levels than the last 2 years. Now, unlike, say, Saudi Arabia, that really is down to a drop-off in oil and gas contracts, and but if you look at construction and, for example, the Dubai real estate market, then it's still going pretty strong. And you also see that the other markets on a pro rata basis are also going to struggle. Now, why is that overall? Well, again, I think that's something to explore at another time. But generally, what we're seeing is the huge amount of work awarded over the last couple of years and a huge amount of expenditure. This is beginning now to create a strain on the projects market, both in terms of availability, capacity constraints, and of course, demand constraints as well, as so much supply is coming into the market. But also, of course, it reflects slightly lower oil prices and financial strains, and the government's been able to keep affording such a major increase in capital expenditure. And just finally, looking at this issue, as I said, one of the challenges has been the giga projects market, which has been such a strong driver of projects market activity in Saudi Arabia, the largest market over the last couple of years. You can see here that we saw that beginning to see that drop off in 2024, and this year really beginning to see that some of those challenges that we've been reading about on some of the major giga projects like NEOM and others is really beginning to bite now, and just $4 billion of contracts awarded this year in the giga project segment. And we'll be doing a webinar just on the giga projects next month. I'll be giving the latest updates on those, and you can see that what we're seeing and hearing in the market is supported and backed up by this bottom-up data in terms of those contracts awarded. And indeed, here you can see just how few of the giga projects have been really awarded this year. Only really Roshan and Daria are pushing ahead with some major spending. If you're looking at, say, NEOM, if you're looking at Qiddiya, Red Sea, then there really has been, a real slowdown in project activity, and that reflects the reprioritization and rationalization of giga project spending, and also the focus now on these project-driven events such as the Expo in 2030, the World Cup in 2034, and also, of course, the 2029 Asian Football Championships. Okay. Now, let's go on to more specifically onto AI in construction. And before we do, I have a quick question for you before we start, which is generally, how knowledgeable personally are you about the use of AI in construction? Let's just see where we stand about how knowledgeable we are, and then we can get the results and we'll have a look. So your options are minimal, no understanding, fairly limited understanding, good understanding, or excellent understanding. Let's results. Okay, so minimal or no understanding is 43% of you, and we have fair understanding 142 of you, so 41%. We have good understanding 14%, and just 9 of you, or 3%, have an excellent understanding. That's from 345 responses. That's a very statistically good sample. So it would appear that most of us on here today have a fairly minimal or fair understanding of the use of AI in construction. And only a small portion of you have a good or excellent understanding. I suppose if you did have an excellent understanding, you wouldn't need to be on this webinar. But nonetheless, that's quite interesting, as it shows that most of us, a vast majority of us, have little understanding of how AI can be applied in construction. Okay, let's start off with a little bit of context onto this topic of AI in construction. And I think the important thing to bear in mind is that, yes, while most of us personally have been engaged with AI since the release of ChatGPT about 18 months ago, AI has been in planning or evolution over several decades, starting in the 1940s, when we saw the initial development of computer-aided design and computer-aided management. Of course, this was in the period of the first computers being developed. And of course, that was very revolutionary at the time. By the 1980s, this was beginning to scale up, and computers and machine learnings were being used to manufacture, automate specific tasks in areas such as manufacturing precast elements, assembling modular components, and reducing time on site. Still fairly basic, but definitely moving forward. And then in the 1990s to the 2000s, this is when we started really seeing more development, especially with the development of the internet, of course, greater computing power, and so on. And that was when we were starting to use machine learning to be able to automate tasks, predict failures, predictive maintenance, and so on. And then, of course, all the way to where we are today, this what we call AI-powered phase, not just in terms of generative AI, but we can also look at AI in robotics, for example, in areas such as bricklaying, painting, welding, safety monitoring systems, wearable tech, and so on. So there's been a clear evolution in line with advances in technology over the last few decades, and how AI can be integrated or implemented into project development. Now, I think this is something that's been well discussed and talked about in the past, which is the use or the essentially not just AI, but the use of technology across the construction industry, and that, or rather, the lack of use of technology in construction. This graph shows in terms of technology adoption and of course AI spending, and it highlights just how laggardly construction as an industry, as a sector, is behind other sectors in terms of the adoption of AI and adoption essentially of construction. I think someone mentioned a very good statistic to me, is that of all industries globally, only fishing is behind construction in the adoption of technology in general. Now, there are various reasons for that. Of course, construction historically has been a very manual industry. It's a well refined industry that over centuries has been refined to the optimal construction. But also it just reflects a reluctance among professionals and companies in the industry, and the industry as a whole, in adopting technology. That's changing, but compared with other sectors, as you can see here, for example, financial services, technology and communications and transports, for example, there really has been a very slow adoption of technology in general. And of course, when you're looking at slowness in the adoption of technology, then by extension, we're also looking at the slowness in the adoption of AI. And indeed, a survey we did by our parent company, Global Data, just a few months ago, showed that 48% of those surveyed said that there wasn't a lot of perceived financial benefit in the short term anyway by adopting technology and AI in their construction, a lack of skilled expertise in companies to be able to adopt technology and AI, and an adaptability, sorry, of workers in construction also was also a barrier to adoption of technology generally. However, it's important to note that this really needs to be overcome. I mean, most studies indicate a very substantial savings, not just in costs, but also improvements in efficiency, productivity, time frames, and reduced rework and improved designs of up to 20% in overall construction. Now, given the fact that 80 to 90% of all projects are overrun in terms of budgets and deadlines, then you can see just how much could be saved, not just in cost, but in efficiency and productivity through the use of construction and AI in projects. So there are very definite benefits to adopting technology in construction overall. Now, before we move on, let's go to another poll question. Does your company employ AI in any of its construction processes and activities? And by extension, of course, that means, does it use technology which can employ AI in its construction processes and activities? And the answers are no, and there are no plans to. No, but it is planning to. Yes, but only at an informal level. And 4, yes, AI is an integral component of what we do. Again, very interesting question. Let's just see where we all are at with our companies. Let's start seeing the results. Let's see the results if we can. Here we are. Okay. So we have 53% or over half of the, over 60%, 63% of you, of the 318 who responded, have said no. The company is not employing AI any of its construction processes and activities. We have, of that 63%, 20% of you, 1 in 5 of you, say no, and there are no plans to employ AI in construction processes and activities. 42% of you say no, but we are planning to at some point in the future. A further 28% of you say yes, but only at an informal level. And then just 9% of you and your companies say that AI is an integral component of what we do, which is integrated into your technology and processes and activities. So that, I guess, underlines the fact that construction is quite behind in terms of construction technology adoption and, by extension, AI. So that reflects that previous graph that we saw about the position of construction in adoption of technology. I'm sure if we ask this question to other industries, such as in the banking sector or automotive or healthcare sectors, that we would see these numbers to be radically different than what we have today. So there is essentially, as a result of what we've just seen from your results, is that there is a big scope for the adoption of technology in construction. So hopefully something like this webinar is a first step to understanding the benefits of AI on construction technology in general and how it can be deployed. Now, let's take just a break, 1 second, to look at our WhatsApp channel. So MEED has a WhatsApp channel which you can all join. There's the code, QR code, which you can scan. And this essentially is our top news, features, analysis delivered to you in an inobtrusive way to your WhatsApp on a daily basis, and it allows you to be able to keep track of the latest developments in the market. It's a channel on WhatsApp, and you can have it active or you can mute it, but either way you can get the latest updates on what's happening in the projects market in the region. So well worth joining, and I find it very useful myself. I get all the latest updates straight to my WhatsApp. It's well worth having. Okay, next point. Why is it important for the industry to adopt AI in construction and construction technology in general? And I'm going to start looking at that by highlighting what are some of the major challenges. And by understanding the major challenges, we can then understand how AI and technology can help resolve them. So first up, we have in the GCC, in particular in the Middle East region in particular, we've got a very low cost of semi-skilled or unskilled labor. And what that means is that due to that low cost, a lot of challenges that we find on the delivery of projects can be resolved through additional manpower. So you can, if you are delayed on the project, or there are engineering challenges, or there are problems overall, then we can just bring in more labor because of its low cost onto the project. And what that means is that there's a less emphasis or a lower emphasis on being able to find improvements in productivity or efficiency, which technology generally brings to the table. So that the market benefits from a low cost of labor, of course, but it also hinders the development of efficiencies, such as technology, to be able to deliver projects. It's a disincentive, essentially. And this leads on to point 2, of course, that low cost of labor, as I said, hinders the adoption of technology. Now, the other challenge, of course, is that in the region, we frequently suffer from incomplete design. We suffer from overruns. We've got cash flow challenges caused by late payments or disputes over engineering changes. We've got, of course, very tight deadlines as well. So these are all challenges, not just faced necessarily by the GCC, but as the region as a whole. We've got some very iconic projects run at very tight deadlines, and some of these are very iconic, which present their own engineering challenges, which are something that companies have to overcome as well. We also have very much a culture of low bid wins in the region. And I know that there's been some attempts to change this, and indeed, some more sophisticated clients have adopted their own procurement processes and are looking at beyond just price as the major decision-making criteria for awarding projects. But when you have an emphasis on low bid wins, this also in itself hinders or hampers the adoption of technology, as people, or companies, contractors and clients tend to focus on the traditional ways of doing things as a means of keeping price down. We also have, in a lot of instances, a lack of regulations and procurement frameworks that encourage the adoption of technology. If you have a market which, for example, doesn't mandate BIM, or where BIM mandates are not monitored and enforced, then again, companies are going to go for the lowest hanging fruit and the lowest cost of winning projects, and in itself is also going to hamper the adoption of technology. And then another key issue is the lack of cohesion or collaboration and cooperation amongst the different stakeholders. Often contractors are only brought in and are caught by surprise by an RFP for a project. There's little engagement among the subcontractors, the vendors, the suppliers, and the contractors during the design phase. And as a result, there is that lack of cohesion from the beginning to the end. So constructability gets impacted. There are maybe challenges in issues in the design that don't get discovered until much later on. So that sort of lack of interaction and stakeholder ownership from the beginning, from the earliest phases of the project to the end, also is a factor in terms of delivery and successful implementation of projects, not just during the design execution stage, but also in the operational stages afterward. So where can AI in construction and in construction technology help? Well, you might have just inferred from what I've just said, it can help from all the way from the very earliest stages of the project, all the way through to post completion operations. So whether that's in using AI in construction in the feasibility stages for the economics and commercial viability of projects, where it can be used to optimize designs or even in help generate designs as well, and optimization through to delivery planning and budgeting, financial assumptions to be made, also through to labor efficiency, monitoring of labor performance and productivity, improved health and safety metrics, monitoring and criteria as well. Certainly in terms of supply chain optimization, logistics optimization, sustainability issues as well, technology, software and AI can really help in that area also, especially considering some of the logistical challenges we faced in the region over recent years. Of course, energy efficiencies and sustainability monitoring as well. There's a lot that the right data, the use of AI and the right construction technology and software can also have major benefits there too. And that rolls through also into asset operation, post-completion operations of the assets, particularly in the form of predictive maintenance and analytics, and basically be able to predict when things might go wrong, but also in ensuring that the right sustainability measures are in place for energy efficiency and having a sustainable and energy efficient project as possible. Now, the important thing to bear in mind here is that these are not sitting in isolation. For example, the efficiencies post asset completion in the operations of buildings or facilities or plants really tie back to all the way back to the design and feasibility process. If you can incorporate predictive maintenance, digital twin technology and planning during that design process, then you are and linking that with the stakeholders who are going to be responsible for that post-completion operations, then you are going to have a much better predictive maintenance framework and structure, and also a much more efficient asset once construction is completed. So these are things that need to be considered as a whole by all stakeholders from beginning to end, not just in their own silos during the project life cycle. And technology is a means and a way of being able to help that process, but it's also a cultural mind shift as well from all players, that they have to be involved from that very beginning all the way to the end for most efficient and successful delivery of projects. Now, I'm going to give some examples here of how construction technology, or AI in particular, can be implemented into construction technology to be able to improve efficiencies and introduce various different automation and robotic processes into project delivery. So when you have this sort of fourth industrial revolution, or construction 4.0, which we talk about these days, when you add in AI processes and techniques into that, then you get all these various technological advances which can be employed on projects. For example, smart robotics. One good concept of that is, of course, drones, aerial robots, which you can use, for example, for LiDAR scanning implementations. You can use it to monitor site progress, and then you can tie that with safety and productivity issues as well. Digital twins, as I mentioned earlier, you can use digital twins and sensor technology to be able to predict possible issues, not just in the design phase, but also in operations phase as well, to be able to, for predictive maintenance purposes, for monitoring efficiency. And through machine learning and AI usage, it can learn from both previous projects and the current project to be able to get better predictive analysis of things, when things might go wrong or when maintenance might be required on various different aspects of the project. Another one we're maybe all a bit more familiar with is 3D printing, and how AI can be used with 3D printing software to learn from other 3D printing projects to improve and to be able to adapt for future 3D printing projects, and it learns over time. So these are just some examples of how and where you can combine AI or integrate AI within technology, both hard technology and software technology, for improved project performance and delivery. Now, of course, one area where AI is being integrated in very seriously is in BIM, and that's something that we are all maybe quite familiar with, building information modeling, which is now being used on many projects in the region, particularly in markets like Dubai, where it's now mandated, and in Abu Dhabi too, on the Giga projects in Saudi Arabia, where BIM is mandated on all the projects for the various different Giga projects, and also now in some ministries in Saudi Arabia, which is, since the beginning of the year, have also mandated that all contractors, all companies involved in the project delivery are using BIM. So AI can be is now being implemented or integrated within the BIM software, BIM platforms, and across. I'm not going to read all of these, but you can see how AI can help improve the performance of not just the software, but by extension the delivery of the projects themselves. So it can you can be used to automate the detection of design conflicts, as you can see here, reducing the error rate. It can spot earlier issues in the design, which may only be spotted or seen once the design is completed and construction has begun. It can forecast delays and potential equipment malfunctions. It can help streamline and make more efficient work schedules, and work towards faster completion, and of course, by extension, cost savings as well. I think an important area where AI can be help with is analyzing energy consumption, and optimizing the use of electricity and water on project sites, for example. It can help the critical issue of safety monitoring. You have now, of course, a lot of wearable tech, whether that's in the form of bands you can wear on your arms or on your helmets. It can help monitor health and safety on site, can help learn from patterns, and can help improve or be able to forecast when something might go wrong, and as a result, reduce potentials for health and safety incidents. So it can be employed across the different aspects of the project, from both from the very beginnings, at the design stage, through to delivery and through to operations. So I'm not just saying this. There are quantifiable benefits. There have been many different studies that have been done and have been conducted on the use of AI in various aspects of construction technology. And here you can just get to see some of those benefits. For example, AI-based clash detection and quality control can reduce rework by up to 30%. Given that rework accounts for 5 to 10% of total project costs, that is a very significant saving indeed. Timelines, 10 to 20% cost reduction in timeline costs. Of course, as we know, the longer the project overruns on its specified delivery date, then the more the costs increase. Labor utilization and productivity, 7 to 15% improvement. And so on. Again, I'm not going to read through all of this. We haven't got the time, but you can see that across the various different aspects of the project, the potential for savings, for improvements, for efficiencies is huge if we can successfully implement technology and harness AI within that technology to benefit the project overall. And this doesn't just benefit the contractor, it will, of course, benefit the client, the design firm, the subcontractors, and everyone in that supply chain. I'm just very quickly highlighting some of the companies in this space which have products, software platforms that can be used on by different parties on projects. These are by no means all of the companies or products. These are just select examples, and they are not by any means an endorsement of these companies or products. There are hundreds of companies out there. It's a very fast emerging space, a lot of startups, and a lot of startup products as well, which can benefit companies. But these are just some of the examples that contractors, clients, designers, subcontractors, and architectural firms and so forth can use to help streamline and help deliver on projects. And I'm sure many of you listening today are familiar with these companies and some of their products and probably use them on a day-to-day basis. That said, I think it's also important that for companies which may not be as technologically advanced as others, or may just be at that very small stage, doesn't have a lot of money to spend on technology, there are also various more simplistic or simple ways of being able to adopt AI on projects, using open source software, or even using simple software like Excel or PDFs or various other fairly cheap software. So these are some of the examples for those companies which want to start dipping their feet into the sort of AI process. Then here you can see how, whether it's contract reviewing, which I'm sure many people already do by sticking the contract into ChatGPT, or even using it to formulate contracts. There are various different solutions there. You can start using optical technology to evaluate project tracking using commercially available drones, for example. You can use AI to optimize your crew allocation, monitor labor efficiency, generate invoices, and various other aspects. And of course, this is just in the delivery of projects, just in the general operations of your company, in the finance department or in customer service and support. There are various different ways of using AI. For those of you who want to take it to another step, you can use, if you have some in-house resources in IT or programming, you can maybe use some free open source tools to help develop AI systems, or you can use third-party integrators or third-party companies or consultants who can come in and help develop these for you as well. So yes, for larger companies, there are lots of off-the-shelf solutions, but for smaller companies, there are also many other smaller ways that you can utilize AI to help deliver your projects, integrate it with into your daily processes. Right. Final question for me today is, what do you see as being the biggest challenge or challenges facing the implementation of AI in construction? First one, a lack of regulations and government incentives, a lack of interest from project clients, cost of implementation, your company not seeing the value of understanding of its benefits, the company culture, essentially, or other. And let's see what you think, what's seeing. Okay, let's see the results. Okay, right. Well, this is a fairly even spread here. 288 of you have responded, and we see that 27% of you say it's the cost of implementation. Another 27% of you say your company is not seeing the value or understanding its benefits. So 54% of you say it's either the cost of implementing it or your company is simply not seeing the benefit. 21% of you say it's a lack of regulations and government incentives. 17% of you say it's a lack of interest from project clients. In other words, you're not given any incentive from clients to utilize technology. And just 9% of you say other. Okay, very good. So a mixture of different issues which are restricting or limiting the use of technology. Okay, and now before we got a couple of case studies, but before we do so, just wanted to just also set some issues straight, some questions which are often asked, set them straight. Now, there are certain preconceptions about construction technology and AI generally, and particularly within the construction space. And I think it's worth setting straight that it might not necessarily be everything that people think it is. So first of all, AI is not going to replace human jobs, at least not within the context of construction. I think when ChatGPT came out, there was a lot of fear that basically all our jobs would be replaced by AI. It would basically do everything that we did. But really, I think over time, we're seeing that that's not necessarily the case. It's as you can see here, replacing tasks, but not roles. And of course, when we're looking at construction in general, it's still a very manual industry. So perhaps even less exposed to the AI obsolescence than maybe other sectors. But and that goes also, I think, in a lot of cases for robotics as well. I think, yes, there are certain robotic technologies, for example, in bricklaying, but in real world scenarios, it's much more difficult than that. And that goes also for 3D printing as well. So yes, the technology is developing, but there's still human touch required in most instances. Again, maybe going back to something we mentioned earlier, you need to be a tech company to use AI. I don't think that's true at all. Of course, you have software platforms we saw earlier and products that integrate AI, but there's also much more simple solutions that we can use to deliver projects. Yes, most instances, platforms and software do come with costs. There's also training costs in implementation costs. But as we saw earlier as well, there aren't necessarily for more cash limited companies, there's not always that need. As a beginning or starting point, there are free and open source solutions that are more simple solutions that you can derive benefit on immediately. I think another misconception is that AI is only for large-scale projects, giga projects, or for large, multinational contractors and companies. But again, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think even the smallest contractors or project vendors or consultants, subcontractors can benefit from AI. And I think that links to the previous statement around investment as well. Now, we also saw early on in this webinar that it's not a mature technology. We've seen how AI, machine learning, has been developing over the last 5, 6, 7 decades. And yes, it's come to the public consciousness much more in the last 18 months due to large language models like ChatGPT. But it's been around for a while now, and it's actually quite as mature now as an industry and as a technology. Of course, there's an old adage that bad data in leads to bad data out. And of course, that's true to a certain extent. But even with limited amounts of data or visibility, AI can still help reach certain conclusions. So you don't need to have masses and masses of predefined and collected data to be able to benefit from it. And no, it's not just for techies. It's not just something for the IT team to think about. If you think about how we've all, or most of us, have adopted the use of ChatGPT and dabbled with it and already come up with some interesting results and have maybe started using it, it also goes to show that actually all of us can, with the right tools, training, and software, can use AI, and it's something that we can all adopt. It's not just for the young teenagers of today. Even the most jaded and oldest of us can really benefit from AI software and technology. And I'll just end now with a couple of case studies from the region, just to see how in practice it's being implemented. I've got one contractor, one client. This is the client, Dubai Holding, which of course has under it now Nakhil, Miras, Dubai Properties, and a couple of other developers. And you can see here how it's using AI in a number of different ways. For example, in robotic process implementation, AI-powered predictive analysis and machine learning, drone technology, as I said, for real-time site monitoring, for digital twins, for completed projects, using IoT sensor data, Internet of Things data, allow for predictive maintenance and identify potential problems ahead of time. And then robotics and automated machinery using AI and GPS. For health and safety critical, how on Dubai Holding projects, there's AI for safety management wearables. If you remember, talking about hard hats, vests, bands on arms and so on, to be able to monitor health metrics such as fatigue levels and so on. That's very useful for minimizing health and safety risk. Sustainability and smart materials as well. AI can be very useful for that in terms of energy efficiency, food waste reduction, so on. Project collaboration and communication as well, supply chain procurement optimization, energy efficiency, and sustainable building systems. Again, I won't go through all of them because we haven't got enough time. I do want to answer some questions at the end of this webinar. Also, just to reiterate that this is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube in the next couple of days, and you should also receive a copy of this presentation to your registered email. If you haven't already, you'll be receiving it over the next few minutes. And then taking into account a contractor here, ours NNDC, the large, now multinational Abu Dhabi contractor across operating now across most sectors. This is used, started to implement AI quite frequently now. Again, going back to that wearable devices for its workers on site, blind spot detectors on heavy plant machinery on site, using now this sort of very interesting technology of augmented reality and digital twin technologies, where you can wear headsets now to be able to have virtual replicas of project sites as well. This is now something that's using a lot of AI to do. Unmanned vessels for dredging and undersea pipeline work as well. And of course, like a lot of companies, NMDC is using AI for sustainability measures too. So there are now very much concrete examples from companies, not just globally, but within the region, who have started to adopt construction technology and to make real quantifiable, get real quantifiable benefits in their projects. So just before the Q&A, please submit any questions you've got into the Q&A box. And obviously, I've already got half a dozen or so questions. Please do submit them. I'll try and answer them now. But just before that, just to remind you, we have our latest report, which is on AI in transforming the construction industry. This is something that you're interested in to know about more of. Then scan this QR code, and you can also benefit from a discount as well for those of you attending today. Again, another reminder, later this year, we'll have our MEED Projects Awards 2025, the most prestigious awards for the projects market in the region. If you have completed a project over the last 12, 18 months that you're particularly proud of in terms of innovation, sustainability, technology, or just all-round engineering excellence and delivery excellence, then nominations are open until the 25th of June. So if you want to be recognized and awarded for your amazing project or projects, then please scan this QR code to get a copy of the nomination form and submit by the 25th of June. We have an independent judging process. We have more than 100 judges who are experts within each market and sector who will be judging each of the nominations. We then select national winners, and then at the award ceremony later this year, we also have at a grand gala dinner in Dubai, we have the regional awards for each of these different categories. So again, if you're very particularly proud of a project that you've completed in the last 12, 18 months, do feel free to submit. And anyone who's been involved in the project can submit, whether you're a developer, client, consultant, or subcontractor or contractor, you are free to submit your nomination. Right, thank you very much. Let's see what questions people have, and I will try to answer the questions. In light of President Trump's visit to the region, is it fair to anticipate a hike in performance numbers 5 years down the line? I don't believe that Trump's visit is going to result in any particular stimulus or catalyst for development within the region for projects. So I don't believe that's going to have a material impact on future projects market performance. If anything, most of the region projects market or investment is going to go into the US rather than the other way around. There is, of course, that notable investment in AI in Abu Dhabi, 5 gigawatt data center campus, which is going to require very significant investment. But otherwise, I don't think we're going to see a direct amount of American investment that's going to significantly change the dial for project investment in the region. I missed out a poll question, which you can see now in front of you, which is, would you like us to call you to understand how MEED can support your business? Whether that's in MEED Projects, Premium Intelligence Reports, MEED.com, or MEED Projects Awards. If you are interested in any of those and want to learn more, please tick that box. Right, next question. When you say AI, does that also include machine learning, deep learning technologies? Absolutely. At its heart, AI is machine learning. It's learning just like ChatGPT is learning from a massive corpus of text from throughout human history, all text, all literature, all research, all newspapers, for example, to create to help grow its understanding and learning. So too does AI in construction. It learns from previous projects. It learns from inputs and data, trends, and so on to support its analysis for current projects. How is AI currently being used to automate or enhance quality assurance and quality control processes in construction projects? Well, I can answer that in a sort of in a basic way, but again, it's about that learning from previous data points. So it's continually learning from the more data that is inputted over time from various different projects from around the world, the better it can produce the results. And so by utilizing previous data trends, it's able to produce more specific, more insightful, and more accurate analysis for both QA and QC processes. And indeed, quality assurance and quality control are two areas where companies can see the quickest return on the implementation of AI. In fact, as little as 1 to 2 years, almost immediate benefit and return, financial return on adopting AI in QC and QA. For more automation processes and efficiencies, you're looking at something like 3 to 5 years, and then the longer run for something like research and development, then you're looking at something like a 5 to 10 year return on adopting AI. Yes, I've got a question here. Autodesk is also releasing AI-powered products, and by the way, Revit is part of Autodesk itself. Yes, so we saw earlier, these are some companies which have software products, platforms, which employ AI within them. Here's just some sample companies, and here are some of their products. Here, of course, many of these products are issued by these companies or part of these companies. So yeah, all of these products, all of these companies are using AI within their products, of course, to support project delivery. Okay, actually an interesting question here is about AI data centers and when to be constructed in Saudi Arabia. So that's a very good point. Of course, AI is very, very computationally intensive. It needs a huge amount of hardware, a huge amount of server capacity to be able to, and computing power to be able to do this. It's very energy intensive as well. So for sovereign integrity purposes, sovereign data laws require that most of the data that is used for these applications is held within country. So that's maybe why you've seen Saudi Arabia, UAE, and other GCC states invest so much in data centers. And of course, these data centers are used to power AI-enabled systems and computing power. So, for example, in the UAE, we saw this investment by Trump in this 5 gigawatt data campus. And this 5 gigawatts, which will cost something like $35 billion, because each megawatt for each data center it requires a capex of about $7 to $8 million. So by extension, 5 gigawatts is going to cost about $35 billion. A lot of that power will be used to power AI computations, AI requirements. So it's one of the reasons why we're seeing so much investment in data centers in the region. And if you look at the UAE, for example, it wants to become one of the 3 leaders in AI technology adoption and AI in general after the US and China. So that's something that is also a driver for a large amount of data center investment in the region. So the more AI is used, the more data center capacity is going to be required. And AI data centers are very much require large amounts of power. And the region is well positioned to be able to deliver that because energy can be produced much more cheaply in the region than it can be in other parts of the world. Kindly please show me the company names again on screen. Well, I've already showed it twice, and you will receive a copy of this presentation, and you will also be able to watch it again online on YouTube once we've uploaded it. But I do want to stress the companies that I've mentioned are not by no means all of the companies. They're not endorsement of those companies, but they are just some of the companies and products that our leaders or use have construction technology software and platforms and which use AI within them to power them. Can we share the poll results from the session? Yes, if you send me an email, please, you've got my email here, I will see what I can do about getting the results for you. Can you name any specific tools available for design collaboration? Well, I'm not going to go through any particular commercially available products or software. There's a long list of them, and I don't want to be favoring some more than others. But if you go back to this list of companies here and some of the products, these might be a starting point, but there are many other companies in this space which you can reach out to and which have various solutions for various different aspects of the construction delivery, and which almost all of them use AI within those products to in their software and platforms. Can you please quote top 3 AI use cases in the construction vertical in Saudi Arabia? Well, I think, when we were doing this, there were lots of case studies for construction technology and AI in construction technology among global contractors and global companies. But actually, when you look in the region, there were quite few examples of construction technology use. I think it's fair to say not only is the region, the industry as a whole, construction industry as a whole, has been quite a late adopter of technology and AI. In the region itself is even more laggardly than other parts of the world, and for various reasons I've already outlined in the challenges section: low cost of labour, lack of incentives, lack of mandates, lack of interest on clients, and so on. It is changing, but by and large, many of the companies we see, and we've also been reflected by the poll results earlier, the majority of companies are not really using construction technology or AI in construction at all, and a quarter of them have no intention to. So there are a lack of case studies, and there is a hesitation, I think it's fair to say, among companies. Yes, there are certain large contractors. I know the big contractors in Saudi Arabia, like Nesma and Al Saif, are actively now integrating a lot more AI into their construction tools and their software and platforms. But there are still, there's a lack of quantifiable data, which is a hindrance, again, in terms of both convincing clients of the essential, the need to adopt more construction technology, but also for other contractors to take that step too. What are the challenges related to client budgets when allocating for AI in construction? So one of the big issues that companies come to me and contractors come to me when around construction technology is that they say the clients don't see any benefit, they don't want to pay more for the adoption of technology on their projects, and therefore we are reluctant to approach them with these solutions. You've got a lot of, especially in the public sector, clients which are used to doing work in a specific way, and it's been a successful formula, and therefore they're not necessarily keen to look at more innovative ways or different ways of doing business. Therefore, by extension, contractors themselves are reluctant to disrupt that process as well, especially if it involves having being a little bit more expensive. And in an environment where low bid wins, this again is a big disincentive. It really hinders the adoption of technology. So in essence, it becomes a vicious cycle that prevents technology, being adopted in the region. In what ways can AV or VR improve operational efficiency and training in industrial environments? Well, let's say, let's take the case of, say, ADNOC. ADNOC now has a sort of AR, VR center where it has been able to integrate every single aspect of its operations, both in the construction and in the operations of all of its facilities, its projects, into a single space. And now someone with a headset or simply using augmented reality in front of them can, at a touch of a button, see any single aspect of the project operations in one place. And you can then correlate different aspects into a single system. So you can correlate or compare what might have previously been very disparate systems. For example, I don't know, the cost of feeding lunch at the labor camp versus I don't know, the efficiency of or the health and safety aspect of a worker on site, or this is the efficiency of a generator, for example. And you can find patterns in them that you might not previously have been linked. But it also, of course, allows someone to be able to monitor something remotely. So in one center, with the use of the AR, VR, you can see how a particular system hundreds of miles away is operating. So there are multiple benefits. You can, for example, visualize a design. You can monitor progress using VR. It can highlight to you remotely many different aspects of the project, and you can also identify issues as well. There are multiple use cases for AR and VR project sites. A question about projects, MEED projects awards. Is project nomination limited to GCC projects, or can we nominate our European project as well? It's limited to Middle East and North Africa. Our project awards are purely for the Middle East, GCC, Middle East and North African countries only, I'm afraid. So how does AI factor into BIM? Well, simply that the AI machine learning, large language modules, and other processes are simply incorporated now into the software itself that is used on construction projects. So, for example, it's like integrating at a very basic level. It's like integrating ChatGPT or Gemini into your search results, into preparing emails, into evaluating an Excel spreadsheet, or simply monitoring, looking at a contract. At a very basic level, how we do that in a much more advanced way is how some of these software providers and platforms are incorporating AI into their own tools to help you deliver projects more efficiently. So it's a simply much more advanced version of AI being integrated into those tools. What is your opinion on AI adoption maturity in the next 5 years in the construction vertical? We've seen such rapid progress over just the last 2 years in AI. And the beauty about AI is that it learns. So over time, it learns more and more. It learns from people's inputs. It learns from people's prompts. It learns from generated data. And so there's almost an exponential growth in the utility and knowledge and usefulness of AI. It becomes more and more refined over time. So, it's almost impossible to know just how advanced AI is going to be in 5 years' time. It'll be utilized and have applications which we probably can't even envisage today. But again, it can only be utilized and envisaged if the will is there and the environment is conducive for the use of AI and technology. And as we've gone through already, without the right incentives and mandates and right cultural or right mindset about the use of technology and AI, then it's still going to be very limited, no matter how advanced it becomes. Can you tell us some of the construction companies which are using AI in the UAE? Well, most of the large construction companies, especially those which work across borders, are now using AI simply because on some of the bigger projects they work on, it's mandatory. Well, rather, BIM is mandatory and various other construction software and platforms or technology in general is mandatory. And therefore, as AI is incorporated into a lot of those, therefore AI is also being used. But there's still a lot of companies, and you'd be surprised, which are still using spreadsheets, which are still using very basic software for running their businesses or delivering projects. So especially amongst smaller companies, with less investment to make, then there's still a very much further to go in the use of AI adoption. But certainly for the bigger companies, the more multinational companies, it is being used in a much greater extent. And I think also, and I think it's worth mentioning here, a very important point. It's also important not to become over-reliant on AI. So, for example, companies might use AI to draft contracts or to evaluate contracts that they receive. And it can become possible to become very dependent on that and not do the right checks on them. And AI is not perfect. It's not infallible. It still can make mistakes. And it's possible that if you depend on AI too much, then it can miss things that a human eye wouldn't miss. And so it's possible that using AI on a contract, for example, it misses something that might cost tens of millions of dollars. So it's important also not to be 100% dependent on AI, and also it can help improve efficiency, it can help facilitate tasks, but there still needs to be a human hand guiding it and acting as that second layer of control. It's also very important, companies have to be also very cognizant about cybersecurity issues. A lot of the times, especially for these public AI models, what you put into that AI model is retained and stored and used to train the model. And so companies have to be very careful about any sensitive data that they put into AI in case it does escape. Now, of course, for some of these commercial products and softwares, that data is protected and not shared. But again, companies have to be very aware of what they input into the AI in general. Challenges around the implementation of AI. I think I've already discussed this. Mindsets, low price, bid price wins, lack of interest. And I think the poll questions also were quite revealing. Companies don't see the benefit and so on. So it's a combination of different factors which are acting as a vicious circle towards the adoption of technology and AI. How can AI help us grow our business as a manufacturing company? I think this sort of Industry 4.0, or the fourth industrial revolution, is a really interesting area. Whether you have a new project coming up or whether you have an existing operations, through some investment, you can integrate technology and AI into your platforms. For example, getting just-in-time delivery in terms of energy sustainability and efficiency, in terms of system being able to recognize when you need to order raw materials before you would normally realize. There's so many benefits that Industry 4.0 powered by AI can bring to manufacturers, and huge cost savings. A good case in point is maybe DoCab. DoCab has introduced this Industry 4.0, linking various different processes from the finance to customer service to supply and demand metrics, that it's been able to increase efficiencies manyfold and companies which can make that investment, integrate different metrics into their system, integrate into a single platform, can reap huge benefits from that. Many of our projects are confidential and clients do not allow us to use AI on their projects. How can we convince authorities to start using AI and mandate it? I think we have to differentiate, say, AI as a single use case, for example, like ChatGPT, for example, or Gemini or Llama or Grok, and AI utilized within construction software, construction technology software. And yes, it's true, of course, there are lots of sensitive data, and it goes back to the cybersecurity issue about what you can and shouldn't put into AI. But if you've got a closed system which has no data can escape, then that data tends to be secure. But yes, of course, there are fears around data inputted into AI. But with the right tools, with the right safeguards in place, then and a clear understanding of the benefits that AI and technology can bring in general, then it is possible to convince clients. If you were to say, well, look, you can save $5 million here, you can save $2 million there, you can save $1 million in this process, then clients will be receptive to that. Again, another question: how can you use AI without violating the client's data privacy? Again, a very good question. Again, it's right. How about having the right safeguards, about having the right tools in place, the right software in place that prevents any leakage of that data? Right. I'll answer one more question as we've overrun. What are your thoughts on using AI, generative AI, or similar technology like neural networks and machine learning in generating drawings and not just documentations? Absolutely, yeah. Generative design is coming on in leaps and bounds, and of course, again, you don't want to be reliant on a purely AI produced design, but to form the basis of design, to support the design process, to evaluate the quality of design, to spot issues in the design, then AI has a real role to play there, and is becoming more and more critical and more sophisticated and advanced in that process. So there's a very good case now for, especially as time goes on, for the use of AI in generative design. So again, it's learning a lot, and it's going to get better over time. All right, thank you very much. There's a lot of very nice comments about the whole presentation. There's a lot of other questions I see about confidentiality and cybersecurity in general, and clients' reluctance for companies to use AI. I've got another point here about everything requiring you needing hard copies of everything, which not necessarily compatible with AI usage. So that's clearly something that is a concern for many of you. Question here: what is a quarter of construction companies aren't considering the adoption of AI? What was the scope reference? Do you mean globally or in the GCC? So that was a result of one of the polls we did today. A quarter of you said that your company had no intention of using AI going forward, and another quarter of you said they don't use AI, but they may be planning to. And one final point says, the problem with a closed system is that you cannot establish the complete infrastructure yourself. In other words, you're working in silo and you can't collaborate with others. You have to use a third-party tool or interface. How can you protect your own information being leaked to them? And again, that's a very good point, and it's something that has to be dealt with. And I think is up for all the stakeholders to formulate a way, using the right software, having a single source of truth and documentation that can protect their own IP and their own data while sharing the important documentation with each other. And that's something that all stakeholders have to reach an agreement on, and how that can be done, of course, driven by the client. But I think it's increasingly becoming apparent that clients from the earlier stages need to take ownership of all data and documentation, as well as getting all stakeholders involved at the earliest possible stage. So yes, client data rules, mandates can complicate the picture, but I think it's becoming increasingly apparent, and most companies are becoming aware that they do need to work closely together, and resolving this collaboration issue, or this sharing of data in the right way, also has to be dealt with. Right. Well, look, thank you very much for that. I can see you've still got 273 people online till the end. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope you found it useful as a starting point for understanding the market and what needs to be done. I think it's clear from the poll results that a lot of companies are still really behind in this space, and I hope this goes some way to quantify some of the benefits of using construction technology and AI that can bring to your company, and that companies start exploring this in more ways. It's clear that there's still some way to go, but something like this is just a small step in being able to help drive that. So as I said, I hope you found it useful and insightful. And I look forward to seeing you all again very soon, next month, when we're looking at the gigaprojects market and the latest update in Saudi Arabia. So thank you very much, and have a great day.